Yeah.
All right.
All right, we have 12 noon. Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Upstairs, it seemed like it was just sprinkling.
Genslinger.
I'm here.
Havlet. Jerza.
Here.
Osterloo.
Here.
Schmidt. Jers. Sonny.
Here.
Tosher. We have a quorum.
All right, do we have any conflicts of interest to declare? I'm hearing none, so let's move on to approving the agenda in front of us. Any additions or corrections?
Move to approve. Second.
Second, that we approve the
Good timing.
agenda.
pretty good.
Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address the agenda?
Didn't hear you.
Are you hearing us? Can you hear me now? Nothing?
No.
No, Mike?
Not hearing it very well.
You gotta be really close to the microphone.
Is that better?
Is it just-
The light's on.
Mic I can use?
Here, you can have mine, I don't need mine.
You need a mic. What about the one in front of John?
John,
You need to go lower?
you never need, you don't even use it city council.
Got to push it?
Yeah, I was pushed. There we go. How's that? Better? Okay, I think we're good. So where are we at? We moved and approved. We need to do a roll call on the agenda.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Sonny.
Yes.
Jerza.
Yes.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda would be to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Any additions or corrections to those?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve them. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience? Mark, your turn.
Sonny.
Yes.
Jerza.
Yes.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next meeting would be scheduled for September 9th.
Set the date.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we set the date, September 9th. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Sonny.
Yes.
Jerza.
Yes.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, first item on the agenda, variance permit for Dennis Kaus. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Dennis has applied for a variance permit for a front yard setback of 20 foot versus 25 foot to build a 12 by 14 foot covered patio located at 408 West 12th. Legal description is here in your agenda. Said real property is zoned R4 high density residential. Mark.
Notice was sent out to the neighbors, published in the paper, signs posted. There were 2 letters that were in favor of it that made your packet. Applicant would like to put that 12 by 14 covered porch on the front of his place. It's a little deceiving in this area, just for the simple fact that the boulevard is actually wider than normal if the street is not a standard width street. So originally he thought that he had enough room because he was measuring from the back of the boulevard instead of from the property line. As you can see, it narrows down coming from Sanborn to the boulevard's wider, but it is still just 20 foot from the right of way. I can answer any questions you have for me, though.
Any questions, guys?
What's he, are you replacing an existing deck at all, or? Does it look like there's like patio doors that are coming out?
Yeah, you can see patio doors there. There's a concrete pad right there is what it's using. So he wants to be able to cover that so he can sit out there with weather.
Is
It's
the,
covered only, no,
No sides enclosing, just a roof.
is the applicant here? No? Okay. I kind of wonder what's going on behind the house. You know, there's a lot of covered area. I don't know what's going on there. And then we're going to add another addition to this property. It seems like it just keeps on going. My concern would be is we approve this and then 2 years from now, he goes in and closes it. And now we've got an encroachment on our setback.
yeah, but he's under the percentage, what is it, 45%?
Yeah, he's under the, I believe this is R4 right there, and that's 75%.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's, you could build another big.
Any idea how far in front of the front face of the other houses this would end up?
Because there is the part of his house right here, the entrance that sticks out a couple feet already, he'd probably be 6, 7 feet in front of the other properties possibly.
What do you think,
Probably
guys?
right at the 5 feet, actually.
5 feet?
Yeah, 5 feet.
So the two houses down on the end of the block there are probably 5 feet back from where he's gonna be.
Yep.
And it's not gonna be that high.
Well, and the other thing, and if Jay was still here, he'd make the comment of these 50-foot lots. You know, and then there's the question of, you know, parking. Is that going to make it, if they ever add a driveway? Again, on these 50-foot lots, there's no parking on any of these houses anyway, so I guess I don't see it as
And
really
there's
being
no
an.
driveway.
Right,
No,
right, there's no driveway.
Would be different story.
Right. And I just don't see that ever happening on this lot.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Here's second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address this one? Mark, let's go roll call.
Sonny,
Yes.
Jurza,
Yes.
Osterloo,
Yes.
Enslinger,
I'm going to say no.
motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit. Josh Frost has applied for a conditional use permit for outside storage and to operate Mitchell Towing and Recovery business, which falls under the category of automotive sales, repair, parts, detailing, located at 24994 406 Avenue. Legal description is listed. Said real property is owned UD Urban Development. Mark, your turn.
Notices were sent out to the neighbors, posted in the paper, signs posted. There was one that did not make the packet, that was in disapproval of it. Larry, I emailed you this letter as well. It is on the screen right now. And you all have that in front of you as well. We received a complaint from a neighbor about a new towing business being in this area, automotive business, and then also all the debris and stuff out back. We did send letters to the applicant to respond within a certain amount of time. He came in the same day that he received it to get on the agenda for this for 2 different conditional uses. So I would suggest during any motions that are made, one would be for the automotive repair portion of it and one be for the outside storage portion of it. I can understand and see where discussion can go probably with both of them at the same time, but I would still recommend doing 2 separate motions for them, either for or against for those. The applicant is here. If you have any questions for him, you can see the pictures that were in the paper or in the packet, and from 2020, from our flyover to what it was in 23, our last flyover. A lot of this came from, we replatted some land out by the lake out here, and during that realized that the city had land in this area still, and there was a lot of other people's stuff on it, so that all did get moved, so none of this is on city property at this time. But there's still the issue of all the stuff out there and the business being ran without conditional use permit. Answer any questions that you have.
So I expect there would be some commentary on this. So I was expecting to maybe just do the motions first, get those out of the way, because we always motion in the affirmative anyway, and then run through all the commentary and then vote. But with 2 separate ones, do you think we should just wait?
You can do a motion for one of them and discuss with it the other one as well, but I would still
Just
suggest.
don't want to go through public commentary twice if we don't have to,
Right.
because we'll hear it all, so.
Yeah.
Let's wait for the motions then, and I guess we'll open up the questions to this body first before I open it up to the public. Okay, would the applicant like to add anything to what Mark has already provided? No? All right.
I can say something.
Yeah, come on up. Identify yourself at the podium, please.
So I'm not the applicant, I'm the owner, or part owner, Derek Davis. So the way I understood, first of all, we were approved through the city of Mitchell by the chief of police to impound vehicles or bring vehicles out to the lot from city police rotation, which same thing Vernite does and Dix, Jabber, all of them do. So when we were approved, I guess we didn't know about this conditional because that's something that probably should have been brought up when we were getting on with them because they were the first ones that we got on with. So, I mean, my mistake, I guess, for that. Also, Josh said that there was a conditional use permit already for that area when he bought, or for that lot when he bought that. And he thought that that carried over as far as that goes. But, I guess my thing is though, what he has out there has nothing to do with the business right now. Like his stuff is his stuff. It's his personal belongings. It's not our business. Our business is to bring vehicles out there. They got to sit there for 45 days roughly, and then we can sell them, get rid of them. That's just the normal towing business. You bring vehicles in, nobody claims them. We send out a deal right away. So I send out letters within the first 10 days. So then they only sit there for another 30 days and then we can get rid of them. I guess that's my deal. So what I'm trying to say is don't judge our business off of what he's got, his personal property that he's got out there already. And I mean, I run reputable businesses. I have other businesses here in town. I try to do everything to make everybody happy and do everything right. So, any questions for me?
We're here to discuss the property, right? Not necessarily the business.
I thought this was about the business.
It would be about the business itself, but the property could go
Attached
with
to that
as well.
property.
That's why I said two separate motions would be a good
Okay.
fit for this.
Okay. Questions, guys?
This is Jersey. I just got a couple questions. Is there any intention of building any kind of a screen fence around all of this when you actually get to doing this so the neighbors don't have to look like they're living next to a parking lot or a bunch of stuff out there? And is the property going to get cleaned up before you start doing all this?
Well, I guess speaking on behalf of Josh, he just had to move all of his stuff off that city property onto his own. So it is at this point more of a mess than it's ever been before because he had to just move all that stuff and do a bunch of moving. We actually just put up gates on the front of the shop area. There's going to be steel sheeting that's going to be put up on the gates to make it so you can't see past the gates. So we've already began the process of making that less visible.
Okay.
How about the two neighbors that are sitting right next to your property? Can they see in and see all the equipment?
He said there's going to be a fence going up. The one neighbor from their house, obviously they can because there's nothing blocked there, but on the other side there's trees and stuff, and there is a fence already on the other side. And from what I know, the current neighbors, the Kiners, are going to be moving in like one day or tomorrow. So there's going to be new owners on the 28th. So I guess whatever they say, I mean, I'd take that up with the new owners. But as far as from their property, I don't think you can even see next door because of the fencing. or that's already in place.
So is that the only business you're running out there, or is there, I thought I saw like a lawn care or something.
AAA Lawn Care is Josh's business.
So you're gonna be sharing the same building then, is that? what's gonna-
AAA Lawn Care is gonna go away. It's just gonna be Mitchell Towing. If AAA Lawn Care does still exist, it's just gonna be a couple plow trucks is all that's gonna be. It's just plowing is all we're gonna do moving forward.
I had discussions with Josh about the AAA lawn care, the lawn care service out there. Yes, there's a sign out there, which signs are permitted in urban development. He's not doing that business on site. That business is being done off site. He would not be able to bring any of his grass clippings or tree branches or anything like that to this location. That's where you could run into issues with that. But in my opinion, going out to mow somebody else's property and bringing your trailer with your two mowers back to your place isn't really running the business at that location. You have other people that bring their work vehicle home every single night, and they don't need a conditional use for something like that. So that's where I went over it with Josh for that portion of it.
Okay. Larry, did you have any other questions?
No, I think that, that pretty much answers what I was wondering about. I just personally think the effort ought to be to start off with cleaning the property up. And what's the plan of that? And then what's the plan of screening from the neighbors? Because obviously it's an eyesore to the neighbors. It's, well, to anybody. And, I just wanted to see if there was a plan to combat that. And, before this thing goes to another stage of operation. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
But we can't make it.
We can just, right, we can just say, well, not at this time, we're not gonna allow it, but come back in 6 months and you've cleaned the property up, and then maybe we can reassess it at that point. Yeah,
You can put a condition for a fence to be put
Oh,
up.
we can? Okay. I didn't know how far we can go with that.
You can recommend that Board of Adjustment have the final say if they're going to use that same recommendation or not.
does anybody else in the audience want to address this item? Yes, please come on up.
Dennis Kiner Jr. on here on behalf of my parents, which my dad's in surgery today, so I will tell you their concerns of this property because they overlook everything and there is no fence tall enough to not see it. So the one thing is their biggest issue on everything is a city-county fight over whose jurisdiction this is when it happens. I don't care what he runs out there, everybody's entitled to run their business or whatever else, but they have to see the mess, and somebody's gotta be accountable or hold somebody accountable if it gets worse or whatever. And the city and the county right now, they fight against it. So make it city, make it county, nobody cares, but somebody has to be accountable to clean it up. Which, whatever, I got along with Josh all up and probably till now. Nobody wants a pissing match for a neighbor or whatever else. But my parents had to spend $2,000 in bushes and shrubs that aren't fully grown to not see it. So, one of their other concerns. And the other concern is the guy on the mic here that we couldn't see, why are we starting another business when we can't maintain a business we already have there? I could care less about the towing company being out there, that's great or whatever else, but the way it is right now, if somebody, city or county is not accountable or somebody to watch it, there's gonna be cars stacked on top of cars, there's gonna be shit everywhere. And that's just another one of their concerns. The other concern I have is I had a mess, and I still have a little bit of cleaning up on mine. The city wanted to come in and do the beautify of the lake, clean it up, do whatever else. This overlooks Maui Daily, where the water, everybody can see it. Mine's going away. This one just keeps adding. So if it was contained, organized, trailers, pickups, whatever else in a row, and not garbage laying everywhere, nobody'd care. Not one neighbor would care. But every neighbor I've talked to around that area that has contacted me, which got busy, couldn't be here today, doesn't care what's there. They just don't want to have to look out their $500,000 home and see an eyesore. And I get it. I have the same thing. I'm looking to sell mine because I'm over the hill in about 8 years, and it's going to be devalued if we have an H&R salvage sitting right there. You know, and I'm not against Josh because everybody's got to make money. I have no problem with that, but do it in an order where stuff looks good. That's one of the biggest concerns of the neighbors, is just keep it organized, and nobody would care. That's all we ask. You know, you can come out and look at them properties, you can come down anytime and look at mine. I'm making an effort, mine's clean, getting clean. But before that motion is allowed, everybody needs to come out and drive out and take a look. Because if the city or the county, like I said, one of them doesn't step up and take ownership of what's going on, it's gonna get worse. So that's just my thoughts on it. And like I said, if it was cleaned up and organized, I wouldn't care what he was doing out there. Nobody would. And I'm not even as close to as the other 3 neighbors I've talked to. And the other thing is when you're running a business like that amongst houses around us, the city has an ordinance of late night machines and whatever else. I get it if I forgot a bucket I gotta put on my trailer at night, go load it quick, go to the job the next day, that's fine. But that out there usually starts at about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and there's machines and dump trucks and beeping and all night long. So that's the concerns of my parents, that's the concerns of every neighbor around. I don't necessarily care. But if we want to clean up the lake and the city is confident as what they want to do with it and beautifying the lake, I'm doing my part. We should probably do that part. So that's all I got to say, and that's on my parents' behalf. Nothing to do with me, the other neighbors and my parents, so.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
Hi, I'm Pam Kiner, Ralph Kiner, and yes, we did just sell our property. There is a new owner taking possession on the 28th. Like with the other neighbors out there, we're not against the towing company coming out, you know, but we as residents are concerned about being a disrespectful neighbor for the city property that was there and for our properties. And with the additional vehicles and the Durbus that they'll acquire there, would it be creating a salvage yard? I mean, I'm hearing that, you know, they're going to be holding cars once the cars aren't claimed. Are the cars just going to be left there and used for parts and scraps? And this is all visible to the neighbors, and you can tell by the pictures that you've been provided. When you say a storage business, what is the storage? What's there now for storage, I believe you could see on your pictures, are enclosed semi-trailer beds, and that's what they're considering storage. That's not very pleasing to the eye. And I know investing in buildings is expensive, but, you know, just to have a semi here, a semi there, a semi there, make it some cohesive so it doesn't distract from other property values. I mean, nobody wants to tell somebody else what they can do with their property, but it's just trying to be courteous and respectful to what your other neighbors are doing. And in regards to fencing, can there be something that says H&R Salvage as you drive down, I call it Highway 16, has done an amazing job of putting up fencing, improving their out front to make it nice, visibly pleasing to passerbyers and to their other neighbors. They've worked with them to make their area, because what's behind the fences isn't so pleasing to look at. And I think they've done a nice area, but where some of this is located, that sits lower, other people sit higher. Yeah. So we're not against it, but it just needs to be controlled, as in Dennis did say. I'd like to reiterate that between the city and the county, we fall in that 1 mile radius. So there's some responsibility. There has to be a decision made. Who is going to take responsibility for complaints? Because when I had an issue with the burn pits and stuff that was being done on the city property, I was told that there was nobody there. It wasn't. And I'm not placing blame, but that's where we get into that it's your problem, not your problem, and then somebody, as in a neighbor, is put out to be the bad guy. You're being the... And where we have all worked together out there to help each other build things, do things. So, but, yeah, I guess it's just, yeah, we want them to succeed. We do, but we have to look at our property values and what it does to those when you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Frost. When the city came out to look at where we're going to do the impound deal for them, they wanted it on camera and gates up, so I did that. So on that north side property line there's a semi-trailer that's on the ground. From there, on that north side, I was going to put up a fence. That shed is about 3/4 of the way on my property, and it never was no building permit when it moved out there. But I'm gonna put a fence up on that north property line, and then I'm gonna come back to the south, so it'd be gated in, and then we gotta be able to hold 10 cars for the city. And as soon as the days are up, like Derek said, there ain't gonna be cars stacked out there. As soon as they can, as soon as there's a load, they're going in. There ain't gonna be cars stacked out there. I got some telephone poles down below that are untreated. I'm gonna be cutting and splitting them and putting them in one of my wood trailer that I got. And I got some rafters down there because I want to add on to the shop here coming up. So, I mean, I am going to enclose it. I mean, I can only do so much at one time. But on that north side, I'm going to start there and then come down. That way it can contain everything. And then on the front of the shop, there's gates. And I'm gonna close that in so that way from the road looks like H&R, you know, like how they got the panels up or whatever. So it's just a nice tin gate area. So,
Okay.
I mean, if there's anything else you guys would want me to do, if you want me to get, I mean, I talked to the neighbors to the south of me. They're fine with it, is what he told me, but if they want me to put up a fence over there, I would. So,
As far as your outside storage goes, what do you plan on having other than cars, parts, trailers? Is there any other storage items?
well, not really, I guess. I mean, my wood, all my firewood, I put that in one of them semi-trailers. It's all split and cut and split, and put in there so that way it's out of the weather. So, I mean, no, I don't really.
Well, between the two pictures, between the 20.
Well, the 2020, that's when I bought it.
Okay, it looks like you've been accumulating quite a bit of stuff. What actually do you accumulate besides these pictures? They show metal, wood, barrels, and of course, right now, I don't know if we have the, you know.
Well, right there,
They stay or they keep now, or,
Well, like they're right there, them are my derby cars, I guess. Once I'm done with them, I mean, I take them in, haul them in. And there's still another run on that one there, and that one hasn't been built yet. I mean, right there, I don't know what that picture is. It's a semi-trailer and my dump truck up there, salt truck. There's some cross members on that one trailer to build a trailer.
well, it looks like you got
But-
quite a bit of height between in your lots there, like that's, what, 8 feet, 9 feet difference?
What's that?
It looks like your land is,
Yeah, it goes down into like a draw, and there's what, 10 miles interstate concrete down there, below that? So. But I plan on, I mean, cleaning that up down there, getting that split, and to burn that in the winter. But like I said, I mean, I'm not gonna have cars stacked out there. I mean, as soon as there's a load, they're gonna be going.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that'd like to address this one? All right, it's up to us, guys. What do you think?
Kevin, I don't know, there've been a couple questions about the difference between the county and city on this. I don't know if you want me to elaborate on kind of who's responsible for what in that area, but I sure can.
Absolutely, let's do that.
So this is in the ETJ, but it's outside of city limits. Essentially what we do is, in the ETJ, really all we're doing is zoning and building permits. We don't do any enforcement of our other local ordinances outside of the ETJ. So our nuisance code doesn't apply there. You know, any burning restrictions that we don't, I heard that mentioned, that wouldn't apply outside of the city limits in the ETJ. So, you know, I guess if they're, the situation with this one is we would be addressing it from the zoning code side and trying to police it from when does it stay outside storage versus when does it become a junkyard? You know, and that's really the only way that we'd be able to have any enforcement on something like this, other than setting any conditions that might be put in place on it, so.
That makes it difficult, kind of, doesn't it? I mean, what if we said yes to a conditional use permit, and it turns into something that it wasn't planned for, then there's no enforcement arm? Is that what we're saying?
I mean, really, it comes down to that, trying to identify when does it cross the boundary from one end to the other if there's no conditions, which, you know, that, it's not the easiest thing to do, but, you know, nuisance cases themselves are never that easy to do. So if there were specific conditions that you wanted to put in there, you know, those might be a little bit easier to track. You know, you talked about fencing. I don't know if you want to talk about, you know, a restriction on how long they're able to keep certain items. I'm just kind of throwing ideas off the top of my head. Another thing that you've done, or that the Planning Commission has done in the past, is put a review period on it where you come and look at it again in another year to see how it's been going. So, you know, that's another potential option that you could consider.
So could we pass a conditional use with a time frame with the review period saying, hey, you know, if stuff gets cleaned up, it's organized, complaints from the adjacent property owners have gone down, then that conditional use could continue from that point on. If those conditions aren't met, then the conditional use would cease.
Yep, that would be something that you could recommend. I think the way that we've done it in the past is that, you know, actually, Mark, I don't remember if we put it so that it was set to expire and then would get renewed at the review period, but I think we've done it the opposite, where it would continue unless it's terminated at the review.
I believe that's the way it's been done.
And I guess another thing to keep in mind is that, you know, really none of the enforcement that we would be doing, aside from the zoning itself, would prevent the county from doing anything in these areas.
So if we put a review in place, who completes that review? Is it Mark?
We bring it back to the board.
It comes back to the board.
Get noticed again. We notice it again, just like it was going to be an original application, just so neighbors be notified of it as well. And then, yeah, you essentially go through the same process.
Okay, so if we made the recommendation, the review in 6 months or a year, because we did that to the Havens and Sanborn, that business, it seemed to work. But now, if that's all we did, now the council can go ahead and add stuff they want to it, which I'm okay with that. So,
Yeah, all of this comes back through Board of Adjustment at some point.
exactly, right.
This is Jerry Zyber, comment here. I think the way to start all this is have the plan documented on paper as to exactly what they're planning on doing to clean things up. We've had a lot of conversations. I hear a lot of things, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but let's see it in a document on paper so we have something we can refer to that spells out exactly what is it they're going to do, what is it they're going to clean up, what kind of business is it that they don't actually have? Are they going to burn things, build trees, jump cars, smash cars? Is there a time frame that the business isn't supposed to operate? I mean, just to understand the complexity of everything that's wrong here. And I just think it needs to be described on paper. I'm just, you know, a firm believer, build it on paper first before we do anything and find out really what it is that we're planning on seeing if we did approve it. That's where I'm at on it.
I'm kind of with you there, Larry. I don't really like approving this and then hoping that everything kind of gets cleaned up and it goes to plan. I'd rather see it documented. I'm not really in favor of giving a conditional use permit until maybe some of this stuff has already been done and some initiative has been.
I'm with you there, yeah. But yes, this has got to be planned so we all understand it. There's too much going on here. This isn't a simple deal.
The issue, though, is that if we table this or if we deny this, you know, if we table it, it's 1 month that he can't operate his business. If we deny it, it's 6 months till he can apply for another additional or conditional use. So I think we can probably set this up in a way where we get all those items addressed while still allowing him to operate the business. If that means that he has to come with a plan 6 months from now and we look at it again, I think that's the way we can keep moving forward, keep operating. but also, get what's really needed out there to keep it clean.
He's in non-compliance right now. So
Right.
tomorrow would be the same situation, so nothing would really change.
Correct.
So you could still be operating non-compliant. Whether you're supposed to,
Yeah.
is a different question, but.
I'm personally not for that. But I'm just telling you just how I feel about the whole thing. It's to get it done faster is not to drag it out. You're just talking about dragging it out. I mean, these neighbors got to live with all this stuff, and you still got all that stuff you got to deal with. I say, if you're going to do something, let's get on it and do it. Get the plan and move forward that way. That's my personal opinion.
Is that for the towing and recovery business, or is that for the outside storage portion of it? Because it's two different things.
Right. We gotta do the total.
That's for everything. We got to have something on paper to understand what this is. I think,
Yeah, it's still not clear to me exactly what's happening here either.
Yeah, I just document on paper what is it exactly that he wants to do, or they want to do. And then go from there. Then if we can approve part of it, if it's just a storage or if it's a rezoning or whatever it may be, at least we can kind of understand what we're dealing with. I just think it's and to do this verbally and to say, yeah, we're planning on building this, we're planning on cleaning up that. Let's get it on paper and see a time frame. This is a real, like a big project. Like, is this going to drag on for a year, 6 months, 2 weeks? Give some time frames. We're going to clean this up. We're going to build this fence. We want to build this storage area, and all this stuff costs money. None of this is going to be free. And so what happens? They get partway down the road and they run out of money and they can't finish it. Then what happens? It's just one month after another. That's why I think it's complicated enough. I think you have to plan it first. You have to plan everything. Just like if you were building a building, let's plan it. And let's look at time frames. So everybody's aware of if 2 weeks or a month, 2 months go down the road, and the plan says, oh, we were supposed to do this within 2 months and it's not done, now we got something to refer to and go back to. That's my thought.
Mr. Mayor, you want to speak?
Hello, my name is Jordan Hansen. I am the mayor of Mitchell. I just want to, so Josh and Derek are both my friends, so I just want to preface that with that. So Josh has done a lot of crazy work that most people in town won't take on. So he does probably accumulate more stuff than people like to see. Now, you guys can do whatever you want, but I would ask that you give him an opportunity to make it right before ever shooting him down. If you have a chance, like, set it in stone or whatever you want, however you want to do it. If you tell him, I just asked him, he said he could have it done in a month, if that's what you did. But if you gave him 2 months or whatever, give him the conditional use, 60, 90 days, and if he doesn't do it, then yank his license. And I think he would probably agree to that, because all he's asking for is the opportunity to make it right. I know he's probably hasn't in the past, but if we have no jurisdiction on nuisance, this is pretty much the best opportunity you're ever going to have to get that property cleaned up. That's just my personal opinion.
The neighbors would agree to that too also, if that's in writing.
So if you ask the neighbor, and again, you guys do whatever you want, but if you ask the neighbors what they dislike the most, and you get that in writing, and then you tell him to fix it up, he has a certain amount of time, I think that would pretty much squash all the problems and not hinder him from running a business. Because they have made a significant investment, not only in the lawn care business, but with all the other stuff Josh does around town, and now with the towing business. So I would just ask, politely, you guys try to be as business friendly as possible and just give him the expectations up front, and hopefully he follows through. And if he doesn't, at that point, it's nobody's fault but his own. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. I'm sympathetic to what Jacob said and, keeping him operating. I think the time frame needs to be shorter. So I would say 6 weeks would be an appropriate time frame to have a plan put together, as Larry has suggested, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and see through it. We have 6 weeks to see if there's some progress. We can yank it or approve it or keep it moving at that time and let them keep moving.
Yeah, I'd be okay with 6 weeks.
Is that appropriate, applicant? Okay. 6 weeks to come back with a plan and clean it all up? At least start to clean it up?
Yeah, we just, I mean, according, with everybody and the neighbors, they just want it gone, and they don't.
Yep.
They honestly don't care what he's running out there, but they just want the ice or most of it gone. I mean, if it's organized and whatever else, and that's all set in stone, I don't think one neighbor out there will care.
All right.
So is this for both of them then? Are we doing that?
Well, it's up to you guys.
Well, because basically that's all.
Well, I think we need to see a plan with, you know, if he's got cars sitting out there, these 10 vehicles sitting out there, nice to see on a plan, okay, where are these vehicles gonna sit? And then, you know, the storage area broken up, where is junk cars or, you know, where's everything gonna be situated at so that it's not a jumbled mess?
And
I-
defining what it is.
And where's the
Right.
overflow cars gonna go, you know? and-
Right.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like Josh has a good plan for fencing, and there is the concern, you know, there's the elevation difference. So a lot of areas, fence won't help anyway, you'll see over the top of it, but the areas, you know, fronting the property, sounded like those were gonna get taken care of. I like that. So I guess right now, what would our vote be to postpone for 6 weeks?
No, I think it'd be to offer the conditional use permit for 6 weeks and then we
Okay.
re-review it here in 3 meetings, I guess.
Okay, and the items that you would need to present at that time would include a plan of where everything's gonna be situated at, any fence that's gonna be installed,
And when? And when?
and when.
Yeah, schedule would be good.
It's going to be a lot of notes for Mark.
It sounds like a motion to me. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay.
And
You
is
need that
that,
clarified,
is
Mark?
that for both outside storage and for Mitchell Towing and Recovery to operate then?
I think so.
One and the
I
same?
think that has to be together.
Well, Mark, which way you want it to go? We can do it both or,
If you're
one
gonna
at
do
a
the same
time.
thing for both of them, you might as well do it in one motion.
That's
Okay.
kind of where I'm at.
Well, I'll make a motion
because it's
to,
all gonna be one thing here, trying to
Well-
get this taken care of.
I see this as two separate things, honestly. You have the business, and then you have the other stuff. I understand that with the business, you're gonna have the vehicles that are gonna be sitting out there for a while, but that's part of the business. This stuff in the back of the yard that's Josh's for the outside storage, that's not from the business. It's two different
All right,
items.
so let's do this. Let's split them up so that in 6 weeks, when we have to deal with each individual item, we can deal with them individually and not together. So let's do
I
two
like that,
motions.
too. Is that for Justin, is that, I mean, in 6 weeks, it'd be probably easier to,
Yeah, I think it's fine to bring them back in 6 weeks and take a look.
Okay. So the first item on this agenda is for outside storage. So would your motion apply to the outside storage portion of that then?
yes.
And your second would also?
yeah.
Okay.
So what would your motion be for that portion?
So that's to provide a plan of the items, the materials, and locations that outside storage would include. And then also a plan for fence installation locations and types,
And schedule.
and a schedule to complete those items. Now, that brings up the question of timeline for cleaning up the property. You know, everybody will look at progress of cleaning up the property differently.
Yep.
It's hard to quantify how much cleanup, but
Well, if you quantified it, how would you measure it?
exactly,
So I think you just have to deal with it in 6 weeks.
okay.
And, I mean, along those lines, sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but
Go ahead.
you know, nothing is stopping the applicant from doing any of that cleanup work in this first 6 weeks, but
Correct.
coming back before the review. So, I mean, they're free to do as much of that as they want before that time happens, but then they can come back in with a plan as to what's left over. You know, another thing to keep in mind when they're bringing this information back is trying to split out the work or the, you know, activities on the site between which one's just going to fall under outside storage and which one is related to the towing business, so.
Okay, so is the motion clear to you, Mark? You have to write the notes.
I'm would like some clarity for your 6 weeks, because that can be kind of an arbitrary number, because of how our weeks fall in there.
Right.
I would
Sure.
say we should set the time for which meeting you were talking about wanting to come back.
Okay, so the next meeting is the 9th, and then it'd be the 23rd, so we'd be looking at October 7th,
7th would be the
The
council meeting.
14th would be the next.
14th, so it's about 7 weeks.
Be the 14th or
That's
28th.
Columbus Day. Is that a holiday?
So it's gonna be a Tuesday?
We would have that. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we'd be.
Of course you
Federal
guys do.
holiday.
So it'll be a
Of course you
Tuesday?
First meeting in
So-
October- First meeting in
For-
October.
Why don't we just do that? I think it's the 15th, but yeah.
So would that be part of your, the first week instead of the 6th week?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a long motion.
All right. Are you clear with your second? All right. Larry, you
Let me
understand what we're
repeat
doing?
that. Let me repeat that whole.
No, that all sounds good.
Okay. Any further discussion on this motion? Anybody in the audience want to address the motion? We can go roll call.
Sonny,
Yes.
Jerza,
Yes,
Osterly,
Yes.
Genslinger,
Yes.
motion carried for that.
All right, so there's a second half to that with the Mitchell Towing and Recovery business. I'm going to let you define this.
Well, I was gonna ask if there's any other comments before we make the motion.
I'd say go ahead and make the motion. I think we're all on the same page.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion with the same verbiage as the first motion, but for the outdoor storage portion of the work.
The towing and recovery
The towing.
part.
Or towing and recovery, excuse me.
I need a second for that.
I'll second.
All right. Mark, it's all clear?
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience for this one? Roll call, please.
Osterly,
Yes.
Sonny,
Yes.
Jerza,
yes,
Genslinger,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right. Next item on the agenda, Dakota Land Management Properties LLC is requesting the following property, legal descriptions listed in your agenda, be changed from HB Highway Oriented Business District to TWC Transportation Warehousing and Commercial, and the official zoning map be changed to reflect the same. This is 1600 and 1900 block of South Foster Street on the west side. Mark?
Published in the paper, neighbors were notified, signs posted. Did not get any letters for or against back from this one. Did have a question from neighbors wondering what their purpose or what they were wanting to do for this area. I was just asked that they would rezone it so that they could have more options for what they could use that land for. That's the reason I was giving for the purpose of the rezoning. I don't know if Caleb's here. With the applicant, as the applicant, can answer any questions that you may have, or I can answer any questions you have for me as well.
Before I bring him up, is there zoning adjacent to this that's the same?
Yep, right here, good question. PWC does abut it across South Foster Street, and as you know, the interstate blocks everything to the south there. Open space is what we have right now as, in our comprehensive plan, but it is butting up next to employment area, office business, and heavy commercial transportation. So it would fit within the zoning, or the comprehensive plan for something like this to be changed, to be social.
And it's a little bit out of the way. You don't just hop off the interstate and get to this property, so.
It's gonna take you a while to get to that piece of property.
Anything to add, Caleb?
You guys go to the podium since I'm.
Yeah, we just wanted it to match the.
Can you just identify yourself real quick?
Oh, okay, sorry. My name is Caleb Kerner. Yeah, we wanted it to match the zoning that's next to it. We don't know what we're going to do with it, but we think that having it match the existing zoning and having it match the city's master plan, I think would be advantageous. That's all we're asking for.
Any questions from this board?
No.
Okay. I would entertain a motion. I do think this is an appropriate rezone. Highway business, it's going to be tough to get to anyway. You're not accessing this off the interstate, so it makes sense to me.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motioned and seconded that we approve the rezoning as applied. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address this one? Roll call, please.
Osterloo,
Yes.
Sonny,
Yes.
Jurza,
Yes.
Enslinger,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, last item on the agenda is a variance permit. Central Plains Automation, Inc. has applied for a variance permit for a front yard setback of 1 foot 6 inches versus 35 foot to build a 16 by 40 office addition located at 1501 West 4th Avenue. Legal descriptions listed. The real property is zoned TWC, Transportation Warehouse and Commercial. Mark?
Notices were sent out to neighbors, published in the paper, signs posted. There was one that did not make the packet, which, Larry, I emailed that to you this morning. They didn't put approved or disapproved, just, had questions on where parking is gonna be and plan. They were approved for the variance to begin with, as to where the building currently sits to the front yard. So that was approved quite a few years ago for the existing. And that's why you see here, I believe it was actually a 17 or 18-foot variance is what I believe they were approved for prior to this. They didn't build, or no, take that back. They built within their constraints of what their variance was approved for. They didn't use all of it. So let's say it was they requested 16, but they built it at 17.6 is what they did before. Now they're requesting to put an addition on for some offices on the north side of the building, which now comes to 1 foot 6 versus what 35 foot would be the original, but there was a variance already to bring it forward some previously. Does that make sense?
No. What's the setback now per the variance? What are they allowed to be at?
I believe it is, for the variance previously, I believe it was 16 feet was what it was requested before, but they built back at 17.6 instead of the 16 foot. So now they're requesting to come even closer than what they requested last time. Does that make sense now?
Nope. So their property line is the dashed line. And they requested to go to 16, they only went to 17.6, so they stayed back a little further.
Yep.
Okay, now they want to come back out 16 foot from where they built, so they're 18 inches from the property line.
Correct. They built in the constraints of their previous variance, now they're requesting the variance to move further north from where it was previously approved.
All right, I got it.
Okay. Answer any other questions you have, applicants are here if you have any questions for them as well.
Does the applicant have anything to add?
Chad Kleitz. Currently, the reason that we want it there is our current office is right inside the building, or built inside the building, just adjacent to that. And we have heavy laser cutting equipment along with press brakes and stuff and like that, that we can't just move stuff. So where that's office is currently, like you always say, why don't you go to the south? Well, we have tanks back there that hold nitrogen and oxygen. So we don't want to move those because it'll take a crane to move those. Plus, it's all the way across and behind a lot of our equipment. So I understand that it's really close to the lot line, but it has more to do with being conducive to how we run our business and having our offices, somewhat together. We're a small business. Got 10 full-time employees, a couple part-time, usually pick up a couple MTI kids during their school year. In terms of parking, we don't, I think I have one of my part-time kids that does park across, like in front of Mueller's sometimes, or along the street, I should say, in front of Mueller's warehouse there. We can If, with that street being what it is, we have a lot of steel trucks that come in, we load on the west end, unload there, load up almost all of our stuff going out on the west end. So if we had to park to the east side there, there is some room there to park if we want to keep us off the street. Won't be a problem at all. I think that was one of the Mueller Lumber's concerns, because they have trucks come in there. It's not a huge corner to make to get into their facilities either.
What's
But-
traffic like in general on Fourth?
Not
pretty late?
a lot down there.
Okay.
But that's my perspective. I'm in the office. We have one window that faces to the north.
Sure.
So there is some though, because it is residential. Once you get underneath the overpass, there is some residential, and I think a few of them do come that way. Mueller will have some traffic because of their, the business they have. You have to kind of realize that we're supplying manufacturers. So like in terms of talking to Mark a little bit, being storefront, I don't really have walk-ins. Do a little bit of business for smaller people that hear about us and want something cut out, but primarily we're cutting for other manufacturers. We don't manufacture anything ourselves. We're just cutting to print to somebody else's print. So I mean, do you have any? My concern is with the corner there. Can you see around us? I did put some cones out to see. There's not really very little traffic coming from the south there.
Holman there?
Yeah, there's just not. It's, over on the east side of us there, that there's just not. I think at one point there was even some talk of closing that road. I don't know, just hearsay. But there's none there, but it is still a corner that people can take. So, do you have any other questions for me?
You guys have any questions?
Plus, it's a street. I mean, you can park along the street.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm Chuck Paulson. I'm the owner of the building that Chad just talked about. And my building was in there before they even put the street in there. And here I end up with 30 feet from my building to the curb. That's all, as far as I'm concerned, that's all wasted ground. So what he's asking for is just a small part. To build an office extended out there. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
I don't know how they come up with the figures there, or how the road comes up, but I was in there before the street was in there, even the road. And then they come in and put the street in afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I
thank you.
suspect that was before I was even born, probably, so I don't know. Jay might know. Jay's here. No. Any concerns from the city? I mean, the only thing I can think of is, so close to the road, pushing snow, are you gonna push it right through the front door?
You still have the right of way.
Right.
So there is still that, 12.5 foot curb.
Yep, so it's ways-
Sidewalk
it's a ways
off the
back.
Sidewalk, 'cause it's all right now, so, yeah.
Okay. Joe?
I mean, eventually, the only issue I could see is maybe matching sidewalk up to the front door, but at this point, we don't have any sidewalk out there. Not to say that there won't ever be sidewalk out there, but in the foreseeable future, don't plan on having sidewalk out there. It'd be out of the site triangle for the corner. So I really don't have any huge reservations about it.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions, guys? Any other concerns? Anybody else in the audience want to speak? Ready for a motion then?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the variance permit of 1'6" versus 35 foot. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience? Mark? Roll call,
Sonny?
please.
Yes.
Gurza?
Yes.
Osterloo?
Yes.
Kinslinger?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Is there any other business to come before this board? We're ready for public input. If you need to address the board on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Seeing nobody coming forward, we are adjourned.